All right, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll take your handsets and just press yes for me. Everyone press yes and just stop right. It'll stop you right there. All right, Mr. Ford. All right. Mr. Chairman, you have all 24 present tonight. There is a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, everyone, commissioners as well as guests. We're glad to have you with us. We will entertain you, so glad that you're here. We look forward to that. So item number 5 is going to be approval of our agenda.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second on the agenda. Any discussion? Favor of the motion, say aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 6 is approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Favor of the motion, say aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. I'll let Mr. Ford hook up and see if he gets his ears together before we move on. Can you hear? Can you hear yet?
No.
Try this one,
Try
Jerry.
that next handset there.
This one, the red
I
light
never
does
thought
come
to
on.
check
so
those for.
we do have a good battery.
Gosh, we
at
hadn't.
least.
Does it? Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, good, good. It may have not. May have to get it down.
1, 2. Test 1, 2. Jerry, good. Can you hear, Jerry?
All right.
Okay.
Good deal.
Item number 7, we'll move right on. Item number 7 is unfinished business and action thereon, report of standing committees planning.
Yes. No
No.
unfinished business. Thank you.
Fiscal review.
No unfinished business.
Nominating. Report of special committees, any reports? Any other unfinished business? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, new business and action thereon by the board, report of standing committees, Madam Chair, planning.
Yes. Planning recommends approval of changing the speed limit on Charlie Maxwell Road to 30 miles per hour, and I so move.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion to change the road? Favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion carries.
That concludes planning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Physical review, folks. We've got a lengthy agenda on this, so here we go.
Okay, item number 1, consider budget amendments to the county general fund, and I so move.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on county general? Mr. Neighbors.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote, and it will automatically stop you right there. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? do have if you've noticed, I hope you noticed up top there, new system a little bit there. It's changed just a little bit. I hope you can see it pretty good. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. All 24 votes yes, and that passes.
Item number 2, consider approval of budget amendments to the solid waste fund, and I so move.
Motion and second on solid waste. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Clerk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll take your handsets, if you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, you have all 24 voting yes, 0 no. Motion carries.
Item number 3, consider approval of budget amendments to the Industrial Development Fund, and I so move.
A motion and second on industrial development. Any discussion on that motion?
All right.
Was there any discussion? I didn't. All right, Mr. Neighbors.
All right. Here we go. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, we have all 24 voting yes, 0 no. Motion carries. Ready for you next. Thank you, sir.
Item number 4, consider approval of budget amendments to the Capital Projects Fund, and I so move.
Motion and second. Any discussion on capital projects? All right, Mr.
All right.
Neighbors.
Take your handsets. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. Mr. Ford? All right. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, all 24 votes yes, 0 no. Motion carries.
Item number 5, consider approval of budget amendments to the General Purpose School Fund, and I so move.
And a motion and second. Again, any discussion? Mr. Bennett, please.
Yes, many of these amendments increase our recurring expenses, the maintenance of effort.
It does not, according to the finance man. Great question. Anybody else? Question, discussion? All right, Mr. Neighbors.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. Favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Goodness, excuse me. All 24 votes yes, 0 no. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Item number 6, consider approval of budget amendments to the School Nutrition Fund, and I so move.
All right, motion and second. School nutrition. Any discussion, questions? Mr. Carter.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Mr. Chairman, we have all 24 voting yes, 0 no. Motion carries. We're ready for the next.
Item number 7, consider approval of the transfer of ownership of West End Park to the City of Cookeville, and I so move.
Second. Motion and second on the part. Any questions, discussion at this point? All right, Mr. Clerk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you take your handsets, if you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, you have all 24 voting yes, 0 no. Motion carries. Next item. Thank you, sir.
Item number 8, consider approval of the transfer of ownership of All Good Ball Fields to the city of All Good, and I so move.
Second.
All right, motion and a second on the ball fields to all good. Any discussion, questions? All right, Mr.
All
Carter.
right. Seeing none, take your handsets. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. And all votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Excellent. Chairman, we have all 24 voting for, 0 no. Motion carries. Next item.
Item number 9, consider approval of jail addition bond resolution, and I so move.
All right, got a motion and a second, and I believe, Mayor, did you wish to speak to that? Did you? No? Okay, any questions or discussion on the jail resolution? This is, remember, a formality, something the state requires. Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you take your handsets, if you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Excellent. Mr. Chairman, I have all 24 voting yes, 0 no. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item number 10, hear from County Mayor on sale of fairgrounds, and this came from the committee with no motion or recommendation.
Are you looking for a vote here tonight, Mr. Mayor? Then we do really need a motion and a second before we enter in discussion, I think, by Robert's rules.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Okay, Mayor, please.
Point of order, what did the motion approve?
The resolution. But if that's not what the intention was, certainly I apologize. That was not explained properly, and I should have.
No, sounds
Yes,
good to
the motion, I assume, and who made the motion?
That was me, and yes, motion to approve the.
Okay. The motion was to approve the resolution for the, so we have a motion and a second, and Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Mr. Neighbors, would you switch the,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Well, I guess as the soul song goes, I have good news to bring. As you voted in past meetings, was to give me the authority to try to negotiate a sale of the old fairgrounds property and to try to bring retail space to that property that would bring in sales tax and property tax dollars in the future. I'm going to look at this screen and point it as we go through. It's a little bit lengthy presentation, but I'll try to make it through as fast as I can. If you've got questions, well, please ask.
Take your time.
So the fairgrounds property, we had it surveyed. It actually came out to more than what we thought the acreage was, 43.41 acres. What I've done in this deal is held out the ag building and the 2 acres that goes with it. We've done a lot of work on that ag building over the past few years with new roof, new HVAC, a lot of different things on it, so I held it out. Now, there might be if this deal goes through, they may come in and say, well, that's a deal breaker, we want that land and that building too. Well, if they do, we can always vote to add that in, but tonight, that is not included. We got an appraisal on the property back over a year ago, and we went back and had them to review that appraisal and update it. We just got that last week, and now they are saying that the 41.41 acres without the ag building is valued at $12,420,000. That is the property without the ag, and then there's an entrance that goes out onto Jefferson off of that what we've called as Fairground Street, but it's not actually a street, it's a private drive. So, the way that I marketed this after you gave me the approval was local media ran it, our newspaper, our radio stations, Business Journal, all did stories on it. I then advertised it on a national level with LoopNet and CoStar, and that may not mean much to you, but I'm sure it does Mr. Wilson and Ms. Dunn, our real estate folks. That goes nationwide where you see property that's for sale of retail value of sorts and all kinds of property. There's thousands of listings on there, so it did a nationwide advertisement that the property was for sale. Other than the option that I have for you tonight, there was one other developer that contacted me. Had a couple of local folks inquire about it, but there was nothing formal done with anyone, and that other developer never came back with any kind of offer or anything. I never heard anything else from them. Our county attorney, Jeff Jones, and Mr. Atwood, the commission chairman, has been involved with this the whole time. As I told you, I want to be very transparent with all the conversations that I had and how this got to this point today. We have a proposal from Baker, Story, and McDonald Properties out of Nashville as an option to purchase the property. I gave you a handout about this company. They're well-known, not only here, but probably nationwide as a retail developer when it comes to properties. They've got projects that they've done in multiple states, Tennessee, Ohio, Alabama, just to name a few. The company was formed back in 2002, and it's a very reputable company. If you start saying Baker, Story, McDonald, most folks in the retail development industry will know who you're talking about. There's several partners involved into this company. Mr. Rudder, the attorney, he's had 30 years' experience, and I listed these out for you. Mr. Baker has over 30 years' experience as a retail specialist. Mr. Story has got over 30 years' experience in the property management. Ms. Daughtry, over 20 years in property management. And then Tom Trent, I highlighted his name. If you've been involved with any of the things, if you remember, his name's been involved with a lot of projects that we've done over the past several years here in Cookeville. And then Jim Littlejohn is their civil engineer, and he's got over 40 years of experience. Tom Trent's worked with us on several large projects, the largest being Academy Sports, the big distribution center that was brought to Cookeville and Putnam County. Eddie, I believe they announced that today. After the election, I think 2014, the best I recollect, and TTI Floric, Afina Pharma, and the new Food City that's being developed out on 10th Street. So he has a vast knowledge when it comes to retail developments and industrial development boards and so forth. He is an attorney. They have done over 35 projects involving over 1 million square feet of retail developments. They work with a lot of national retailers. I just listed you a few of them. That is not a complete list, as you can see. Some large ones that we even have here with Publix and Petco and Aldi, Hobby Lobby, Ross, Target, Marshalls, Home Depot, Trader Joe's. Like I said, that's just a partial list of folks that they work with on a day-to-day basis. I gave you some projects. These are just some projects that I picked out. I gave you a handout on BSM development. You can look at them, you can research them, and I picked out a few of the projects that they've done over the past. This is in Beaver Creek, Ohio. It's a retail project with Aldi and Hobby Lobby being the two primary big stores that was in this project. This is one in Dixon, Tennessee. It's got a big Planet Fitness and a bunch of other retail stores in it. It's called Dixon Square. This is the Inglewood Gateway Center in Ohio. It's got a big Petco and Aldi, Texas Roadhouse, a bunch of other retail developments inside of it. This is Nipper's Corner in Nashville, large retail development. Publix is the large store that's involved with it, and there are several others, several restaurants, Bojangles and others that's in with it. You may have been by it or through it in Nashville. The crossings at Dixon. This reminds me a lot of Eagle Point that we did here in Cookeville. It's got a lot of the same stores with Ross and Marshalls and some of those. It's a large development that they did in Dixon, Tennessee also. And then probably the newest one that they're currently involved in is called Savannah Ridge in Murfreesboro. They have just started this project. I think the key big store here, of course, there's several of those. I'm not sure what they're going to be, but I know they've announced that Aldi, I think, is the grocery store that's going to be in this development. They are asking for an option to purchase. When you start looking at retail developments, it's not a fast process that happens. You're just not going to go out and get a big retail store of some of the ones that we talk about that we'd like to have in 30 days and get them to sign on and work through all the paperwork that you've got to do. They want to be able to control the property, to be able to go to these large retail developments that they've already had conversations with, to be able to say, we control the property now, so they can work a deal with them. So what they're asking is a 120-day option to purchase the property at the $12.42 million that it is appraised at. For the 41.41 acres, does not count the ag building or the 2 acres that goes with it. They would pay us $5,000 for that option price. And in that 120 days, they have the right to exercise that option, and we sell them the property for $12.42 million with them bringing in retail. And there's several other parts to this that we'll walk through. At the end of that 120 days, they have the opportunity, if they do not meet these criteria that I'm going to go through with you, the option then becomes null and void, and the property stays with us. They can exercise the option during that 120 days, and it becomes theirs at $12.42 million. For them to get an extension on that option, they have to have a major retailer whose stores are 60,000 square foot or larger, which limits a lot of, it's going to be a large national retailer, that will agree to consider Cookeville as an approved market, or that will agree to consider our property as an approved store site. Remember, this is a process that they have to work through with these large companies to get them to come to Cookeville. If they do that, they would pay us an additional $5,000, and they would be able to extend the option for another 120 days while they work on a letter of intent from the company to come here. At the end of that option, after that next 120 days, they can step away from the option, or we can extend it another 120 days. But for it to be extended, they have to have executed a letter of intent from a major retailer pertaining to the property to be able to extend that option. If they do that and we extend that option, they have the option to walk away. If they don't have that, land stays with us. Or if they do have that letter of intent, which is a really good thing. If you got the letter of intent, chances are the rest of it's going to flow through too. But we want to make sure that we have that sales agreement. So they have to be actively negotiating a sales agreement with the major retailer, with one or more, to sell all or a portion of the property, or a binding lease to lease property to these people. A lot of times with BSM, they will develop the property and then they lease that property. They will retain ownership of it, and they will lease it to these large national retailers. And then the final extension, should they need it, would be another 120 days. And I forgot to tell you, they'd pay $25,000 on that number 3 extension. Would be that they've entered into a binding sale or lease agreement with the major retailer, and it's basically a done deal. They would pay us $25,000 more to hold that option. Just remember, at the end of the day, we're not looking for $5,000 or $5,000 or $25,000. We're looking for $12.42 million. So as option agreements go, if this works through, we would credit that $60,000 that they paid on these option extensions back towards the 12.42. Key dates. So if you approve this tonight, we're looking at October 26th. They have to come back to us with a major retailer that's willing to consider us. If we extend it, February 23rd, they have to come back with that letter of intent. June 23rd, they have to come back with whether they're negotiating a sale or lease agreement. October 21st of next year, they'd have to have that binding or sale or lease agreement in hand, and then it's sold. If we want major retail to come to this property, this is a process that we're going to have to walk through. I firmly believe that it will not take this long to do all this, but they're being very careful to make sure that they have enough time to make it all happen. If on February 23rd they come back with a letter of intent, I think our chances are really good. If they don't, then the option is null and void, and we can do whatever we want to with it. We can put it up for internet auction, public auction, whatever you want to do with it. In my mind, it's well worth spending that 240 days, if it goes to February 23rd of next year, to see if we can get that one or two large retailers to come to Cookeville. Because it's going to mean a world of difference when it comes to our sales tax and property tax and all those kind of things in the future of what we have to offer. The process before you tonight would be is that you approve this purchase option. You agree to those option extensions when we go forth. You'd have to agree to those up front, that if they come to us with those letters of intent or any of those stipulations that we have, you have to be willing to extend that option. That's all part of this process tonight that you're passing. And you're agreeing to sell that property for $12.42 million. And as I said, that's the process if we want retail, big retail to come, is to walk through that process. Jeff, did you have anything you want to say? Okay, I'll have some questions.
If I may, Mr. Clerk, would you put that last back up, last screen back up, which was the process? Folks, that's what you're looking at tonight, okay? That's what our vote that we're fixing to take is concerning. Approve purchase option, agree to option extensions, agree to sell price. So those are the items. And now, having said that, I apologize for not being clear before when the motion was made. But that's what we're talking about, and I'll open it up for discussion at this point. And all right, Mr. Bennett, I believe I saw you first.
Obviously, this process could take up to a year to complete. Do you have built in there that we can use it for a fairground site one more time if we get into the 240 to 360 days?
There won't be an issue if we're still in this process, because until that final sales agreement happens, I don't think there'd be an issue. I do have in the capital projects budget, though, to go ahead and bid out the dirt work for the new fairgrounds and expo center. And if we're able to do that, they could have the fair at that location. The fair board's already been talking that they might have to rent a few tents or something, but we have the arena and the midway and the parking lot at least into a gravel state that if they wanted to have the fair there, they could. But these folks have been very agreeable to work with, and I do not see that being an issue should it come down to that.
Folks, I apologize. With this up, I'm going to have to watch for you, okay? I saw Mr. Christopher next, so I'll go to you, Commissioner Christopher.
A couple questions. So with respect to some of the other projects that we've seen develop downtown recently, how does this timeline match up with what we've seen some of the other recent development projects? And then I doubt we have access to this, but if for whatever reason they do walk away from the project during one of the option periods because they could not land one of their potential go-to clients, would we get feedback on who they approached or why, any sort of constructive information on why a potential target did not decide to go forward?
Yes, sir. First question is, in the projects that I've been involved in since I've been county mayor, this is well within those limits. Some of them went longer, and I won't name all projects, but we've had some that went longer, but this is pretty common in retail space. We worked, Shops at Eagle Point was longer than this once you walk through the whole process. And yes, I mean, in confidentiality, I can't tell you the stores that I know they've already talking about. I think you would like it, but yes, once we find out if it was to fall apart, I think they would be very vocal with us to tell us why, and then we'd have to make a decision. The commission have to make a decision going forward as what you decided to do then.
Mr. Moss.
Couple of questions, Mayor. That option price seems awful low to me. What big business I've been into is quite a bit higher than that. And also, are they going to tie you up for 12 months if you can't negotiate with nobody else or can't keep looking?
That's correct. As long as they keep meeting the demands in this option agreement, they have the option to keep extending it. I mean, we can be looking and thinking, but in options that we do with the county, it's normally $100. I mean, we're not used to large amounts, and the key to this thing is we're not interested in their 5,000, 10,000, or 25,000, or whatever. We're interested in them in bringing us a big national retailer here that we're going to sell for $12.42 million is my idea. So That's the reason that we agreed, well, y'all can agree to the 5,000 and 25,000s. It's just to lock in that on the legal format, right, Jeff?
And the option agreement is basically an agreement to take it off of the market, because it's not going to help them at all. The market is making retail, but they don't have control of the property.
Well, it seems awful low to tie you up for a whole year that you can't
Right.
consider anybody else for $60,000 if I added it all up. You know, and a lot of things can happen in a year's time that you could lose more than $60,000. So, I mean, I'm an old country boy, I can add two and two, you know. So, I just think it's a little bit low on the option there, but, in the past, I was involved with the Academy Sports, you know, and I know the money that came my way was much more than that. So I just wondered, it's
And-
big business here, so why is it much larger?
It is, but we're asking this company to go out and to market with these national retailers, and if they don't have any success, they're going to waste a whole lot more than 5 or 25,000.
Well, my concern is the time span they can tie you up, that you can't do anything but maybe a little looking.
Well, and I say this with all due respect. My door hadn't been being knocked down with other people wanting to offer stuff. Okay, this is a great company. It's the primary one. If we want to see something happen with a national retailer, I think if we don't have something happen by February, the option goes away and we can do whatever we want to. I think if we see a letter of intent, it doesn't guarantee it 100%, but it gives us a really good chance. And I'm just being honest, not disagreeing with you, okay?
Thank you. I saw Mr. Cassidy second, next, and then I'll just to you, Mr. Wood.
Mayor, a couple of quick questions. Just to make sure I understand the way that's worded, I'm going to put that in maybe a little simpler terms. There's going to be a big anchor store there. That's what we're asking them to guarantee us.
60,000 square foot or larger.
And you did say this, but I want it reiterated. It could be less than the 240 or even up into October of 2022. It could be less time.
It could be. They're being very conservative, just like we want them to be, to make sure that they can work through this, because if this happens, it's going to be a big deal. Not only for us to sell it, but for us to get a national retailer that's coming on that property. It's a big deal. I don't know if you went out and just done an auction on it, I'm not sure what you get for it. I'm not sure it would be this price, but I think it's a risk. I think it's a risk worth taking for the 120 or 240 days to see what they can do, and then if they don't have any luck, then we can still do what we want to. That's my opinion.
Mr. Wilson.
On the large space, did they talk about a minimum years that they would have them lock in a lease?
No.
No? And secondly, on the, that low area on Veterans Drive there, that wet area, how much of an acreage of the 41, how much is that cut out of there? Because they're going to have to deal with that.
It was a little over an acre, Jeff, 1.23 or, yeah, it's not as big as you would think.
1.3?
I think that's about right.
Not bad, is it? Okay.
We went ahead and did the environmental study on the property when we did the survey to make sure that we knew how much that was and make sure there wasn't anything else wrong with the property. And it was, they've already got that approved by TDEC and everyone. And it was 1.2 or 3, somewhere in that neighborhood, a little bit over an acre.
One last question with regards to sentimental value to the current fairgrounds. Will they, upon the sale, upon the acceptance of this offer, going through the options and then making the final agreement to purchase a property, will the county have the opportunity for those that may want to buy a piece of the fair, maybe to a block or something on it, to be able to be given back to the community if they choose to do so?
I think that would be, I don't think it'd be an issue. They're not going to be interested in the old buildings on that. Now, we are talking about that, maybe taking some of it with us. There's the fair board would like to take the old cattle barn, take it down and put it back up as a memory of the old fair, and the arches that's out there on, maybe take those and redo those. So yeah, I don't think, and Jeff, I don't. Would you agree that I doubt there'd be any issue with us doing any of that? And
I mean, I'm certain they could use some of the debris as fill, but I just thought that might be an option for the county.
yeah, I think it would be a good option. I don't think it'd be an issue. These folks have been really great to work with so far.
Commissioner Jordan, our wife.
Appreciate it, Mr. Chair. Of course, we're easy to mix up there a little bit there, too. I want to say thank you, Mayor, and also to Mr. Jones and Mr. Atwood for your work on this, because like you said, you've already alluded to this being a pretty big deal if this can all go through. Got a couple of questions quick. First one is, of course, with the process side of it, we've already had a motion on the floor. Does that cover, I guess, I don't know if that, Mr. Atwood, you might know, too, does this cover every bit of that on there? Do we need another motion to cover this as well? Or?
Apologize, Commissioner. I was in conversation and I didn't hear your question, so.
No, you're good. No, I just wanted to ask, on the process side of course, we have a motion on the floor. Does that cover all the details? We didn't really state the full motion. Does that cover all the details?
The things you see right there is what our motion involves. Approve the purchase option, agree to option extensions, and also agree to the sale
All right.
price, to the sale price.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Second question also, of course, to entertain a scenario. If it is on the more optimistic side, as you mentioned there, could we conceivably see that revenue coming into the county before we get much work going on the new event center and expo center, or probably be later before we receive that? Or
Well, if everything just works at the best possible scenario, you would hope that they'd be closing on the land with either a sale or a lease agreement sometime next year. Then you're looking at the time they go through the development with the city of Cookeville and the plans and all that kind of thing. I think you're probably looking at another couple years or so before you'd actually see that coming to fruition. But our goal is to get our $12.42 million locked in and get that money to build the new expo center and fairgrounds, and then we'll just, I mean, it'll work at its own time frame, but depends on the company and how fast they want to move.
makes sense. Thank you again for the work on this.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
To answer part of that question also, there is works in the budget committee right now to move some money to make some progress a little early. That will come before you, obviously, when budget, but that has been discussed and actually moved on in budget. So that's something that will come to you probably as the budget progresses, right, Mr. Chair? Any other? Yes, sir, Mr. Jones.
Did we have multiple vendors do the appraisal, and who was the one that we went to?
We did, we went with an out of town. Appraisals are really hard to get right now because there's so much, the market going like it is. Jeff got it for us. He used I don't remember the name of the company, Jeff. Yeah. Out of Lebanon that did the appraisal, and he looked at the sales in Cookeville and shops at Eagle Point, different things to come up with the price. Honestly, I mean, we were figuring 10 to 11 million, but as the market's been going kind of crazier lately, why it came in at almost 12 and a half, so I think it's a good price.
So we only went with one?
Excuse me? Yeah.
We only went with one?
Yeah. And we had already done the appraisal before we started this because we were looking at a price to set as the floor if you wanted to put this up for auction. And then once this company came along, they were satisfied with this appraiser, and we got it updated to get today's price. Just last week it came back. So it was about 12 million to start with, so we've added almost $500,000 to the price.
Does anyone who has not spoken wish to speak? Mr. Ford? Yes, sir.
I just want to say, I think this is a pretty good deal. Looks like to me, several years ago, we put the fairground up for sale, and I don't know if any of you were here or not when we put it up for sale. And we had one potential buyer for $7 million, or $6.5–7 million out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and they couldn't come up with the money. We couldn't get anybody else to look at this thing, and it's just considered a lot of money. Back then, it was harder to borrow money than it is right now. And I think if we can get 12 million plus on it, we need to let her slide. Home Depot would look good down there.
Thank you, Mr. Neal.
Mayor, did they say anything about the ag building? There's no concern with them coming back wanting that or anything, you don't think?
Well, there could be. I mean, depending on the retailer that's looking to be there, I mean, there could be multiple retailers. They're not just shopping this with one, they're shopping it with multiple. So if you was to have 2 or 3 big retailers that wanted to come in, they may come back and say, we want that parcel too. And if they do, you can, at this price, I mean, you're looking at about 600,000 more if you sold it to them, and we just have to build another ag building somewhere, because we have a government lease with the soil conservation and UT Extension that's in that building. And it's an old building, but we've done a lot of work on it. So if they're not interested in it, we'll keep it, and that property will go up in value as those new things come in. But if it was to be a deal breaker that they say, we've got to have that, I would not want it to be a deal breaker, and but that'd be your decision then as to whether you added it or not.
Anyone else who, Mr. Squid?
I just want to clarify, the motion that we are voting on is to approve this lease language in it?
A purchase option.
Okay, well then I don't know if I need to make a motion or we just need to correct it. On the bottom of page 2, 1.4, it says purchase price. It's probably just a typo, but where it's written out, it says 12 million and no dollars, but in parentheses, it says 12,420,000.
That's a typo.
That's a typo.
It's 12,420,000 is what they agreed to.
So I don't know if we just need to.
Jeff can take care of it.
Okay.
Anyone else who has not spoken? Mr. Moss?
Mayor, you almost answered my question a while ago, but you stopped short. The money that we get out of this is going to go to building the expos and developing that property down there. Is that correct?
That's what all of you have said before, yes.
Okay. I didn't know if we had a motion before or whatever that this money was going to go strictly for that development down there.
That would be up to the commission. That would have to come back as a budget amendment once the money came in, and you'd have to make that decision. But I would hope, that's been the goal. I'm working real hard to make this happen, to be able to build that. I just you'd be surprised at the events that already contacted me right now wanting to go there, and we don't even have it started yet. And if I could tell you some of them, you'd say, wow, we're going to attract an event that's got 1,500 participants or 2,000 participants, but it's kind of amazing. So I would hope that everybody's in agreement that once we get that money, we do the dirt work coming up as soon as we can and get it ready, and hoping that building prices will come down over the next few months. And then if this goes through and we get it, then we move forward and get that expo center and event center built.
I appreciate your effort on this. You're in my stomping grounds, that's why I'm asking so many questions. But you've done a good job, and I want to thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? I need to make one, I guess, addition, if I can, in the language. The county attorney has asked us to also include in the language that this is in the best interest of Putnam County, and the purpose for that is for the comptroller. So it's basically somewhat, am I right, Mr. Jones? So I would need a motion to add that, or to.
Motion to
I'll
add
make-
that verbiage
I'll
to
second
my
that.
previous motion.
Okay, I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Now I can accept conversation as it relates to that now. So is there any discussion on that particular motion? All we're doing is adding the verbiage that this is in the best interest of Putnam County. Favor that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. So we're back to the motion. I guess no one has any other questions. Are we clear on what this motion is? Anyone confused? Again, the process is before you. So I assume we need to voice call. I'd rather do that anyway. We definitely need a roll call vote. Would that be right? Mr. Clerk?
Hang on. All right. I don't think this is going to cooperate, boys. There you go. All right. Oh, all right. Better than I thought it did, I think. All right. Hang on. Now, take your handsets. If you're in favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. You're voting for what you saw on the screen. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their votes anywhere?
Good stuff, guys.
Mayor, is all this in a, you got that in a form of something you're going to give me a little bit later?
I'll have that to you in the morning.
You are a good man. Thank you, brother. All right. Mr. Chairman, all 24 votes yes, 0 no. That motion carries.
Awesome.
Item number 11, consider approval for the Putnam County Emergency Services to write off uncollectible debt in the amount of $623,740.56, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Mr. Ford?
Is that down from last year? I believe it is.
It's a little bit lower. If you look down at the bottom of the page, if you look at the bottom of the page, that's got the percentage for the last several years.
Oh, okay.
So percentage-wise, it is a little bit lower.
I thought it looked better this year.
Any other questions or discussion? You want to clear that, Mr. Mullins? There you go.
All right.
All right, Mr. Clerk, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you check your handsets, if you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. And it will stop you right there. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, all 24 vote yes, 0 no. Motion carries.
Item number 12, consider approval for the Solid Waste Department to write off uncollectible debt in the amount of $3,418.99, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the solid waste write-off? All right, Mr. Clerk.
All right. Hang on. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Excellent. Mr. Chairman, all 24 votes yes, 0 no. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 13, recommend approval of the Board of Education's lease agreement for a Honda Odyssey, and I so move.
Motion and second on the lease. Any discussion? Mr. Clerk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. Favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, we have all 24 voting yes, 0 no. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Mr. Corby, you can keep your Odyssey.
Item number 14, consider approval of the Gatsby 34 amendments, as well as the other cleanup amendments in order to properly close out fiscal year end, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and second on the Gatsby. Any discussion? Questions? All right, Mr. Neighbor.
All right. You take your handsets. You favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, all 24 votes yes, 0 no. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that completes fiscal review's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll recognize nominating Chairman Randolph.
Mr. Chairman, the nominating committee recommends approval of Bo Stout as a judicial commissioner, and I so move.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the appointment? In favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Nominating committee recommends approval of the Library Board of Trustees nominee Brian Payne to the Library Board for a 3-year term expiring June of 2024, and you had a letter to that effect in your packet, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second on the library appointment. Any discussion, questions? In favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, item C recommends approval of a resolution to appoint members to the Putnam County Board of Health as follows, with terms to expire June 2024. The county mayor, director of schools, or his designee, Clarence Smith, pharmacist, Jeff Crozier, physician, Stacy Brewington, physician, Scott Brown, dentist, Bethany Pack, RN, and Gerald Barker, veterinarian, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second on the appointments. Any questions, discussions? In favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those no. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, up for discussion in nominating was to discuss the redistricting committee formation, and we decided, we had a motion and a second to limit the number of people on the committee to 9 people. 6 of those people are already going to be on there automatically, basically 1 from each city in the county. That's 4. The election commission has 1, which is 5. The chairman of the Putnam County Commission is 6. That leaves 3 positions open to be decided on by this commission. And in that motion, we have asked that basically to vote on this, if this is approved by the commission, to vote on this next month, which gives anybody an opportunity, any commissioners, any citizens, anybody that wants to be part of this committee, to notify me, the nominating committee chairman, via email, if you're interested in having your name put on the list, and then it'll be voted on in the July meeting for the other 3 remaining people. And I so move.
Second.
So that we're clear, the recommendation from nominating is in the formation of the committee and how that will be formed. Does everybody understand that? They have recommended 9 members, of which he named 6 that would be a part of that committee. That leaves 3 to make up the 9. The committee would accept nominations from anybody, either from the public or from this commission, whatever. Anyone could be nominated, and then the first 3 people that get a majority vote in this commission next month would be the remaining 3 members of the board. Does everybody understand that, what I just said? Let me stand up so I can see nods. Everybody clear on what we're talking about? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on that formation?
I've got one discussion,
Okay.
one question. Once this gets approved, what's the timetable for the finalization of the redistricting?
Mr. Wilson, we thought we weren't going to get the census data till the end of September. Not guaranteed yet, but we're hearing we may get it in August. The goal would be is that committee would be appointed in July and would start to work as soon as we got the census data. CTAS, Mr. Rogers, Brandon Smith with 911 with the GIS mapping software. Several of us will be working with the committee to get all that together. I think the goal would be is that it come back to this commission by no later than December, so we can get ahead of the qualifying starting of elected offices coming up. That'll start December 20th, I think.
That's good.
It's got to definitely be done before the election in May, but it would be nice to have it done before the end of the year so you can beat that. That would be the goal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
With the new GIS mapping software, It's a lot easier to do redistricting than it used to be, so I don't see it as being a long, drawn-out process.
Mr. Roger?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, the actual deadline for us to approve it's December 31st. We can't go past December 31st as a commission body, as a legislative body, because the qualifying deadline is so close. Then we have a primary in May, so we have to have a reapportionment redistricting plan voted on by December 31st, 2021. I don't think there's any extension at all unless there's extreme circumstances. So that's have to have. So I would almost encourage the committee to work fast and try to have something preliminary in November in case the commission wants to make a change. It's my suggestion.
Mr. Randolph?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. Porter to come back up to the podium. He gave us a lot of information that you didn't get to hear about what happened, about 10 years ago. So I'd like for you to hear what he told us in the meeting, and that's basically why we came out with the motion and the recommendation that we did. Mr. Porter.
I've been involved with the redistricting for several years, probably go back to the 90s because of 911 and all the addressing and mapping. You had Mr. Joe Pritchard that used to take this on by himself and did it and spent weeks and weeks and weeks working on that and bringing it back to the full commission. In 2010, I know that may have been the first big year that we had the redistricting committee. At that time, you had 15 members, which in my opinion is too many to try to have on a committee to try to get everybody together to come to a conclusion. So that was the reason I recommended something smaller, and that committee came up with 9. You've got the election commission administrator, Ms. Honeycutt, that will be working with it. She's got 28 years of experience or something like that. She's done this before. You've got Ben that's done it before. You've got Brandon that's done it before. I've done it before. So I don't think having something to the commission in November is going to be an issue as long as we can get the census data. We were supposed to have already had it, but for whatever reason, it's been held up on the federal end, and we hope that we get it in August. If it does, it gives us a pretty easy turnaround, I think. But if it doesn't get till the end of September, they may have to really work fast to get it. But with the new software, it makes it pretty simple. Don't you agree, Ben, for it to happen?
The software is provided by the state, and so briefly how it works is they'll hand the software off to us at CTAS, and I'll actually be helping the mayor and Brandon and Ms. Honeycutt. We'll be moving lines as the committee is making decisions as far as census blocks, and there's a whole other thing to it we can't get into not tonight. But the software is free to the county because it's coming from the state to us, so it's actually very efficient.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Williams.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch when you first explained the breakdown of this committee. Would you go over that again? I know there was 3 commissioners and some others, but how you arrived at those first 6?
Well, no, not 3 commissioners. There are 6 members that are already will be in place, and that's 1 for each city in the county. That's 4. The election commission, that's 5, and the chairman of our commission is 6. So if you approve the 9, we're looking for 3 more members.
Those
And
members from the cities, how are they selected?
by the city, however they choose. It will come from those city governments, and they will make a recommendation. Mayor Porter is going to request that before our meeting next month so that we don't duplicate in case they've appointed somebody that may want to serve through the county. That won't be a problem. So is that clear?
And if you would, please email me if you're interested in being on this committee or throwing your name in a hat to be elected to this committee. Just send me an email and I'll make sure that your name is put out there.
I remind you folks what that means. That means that if there are 10 people next month whose names are on this list of folks wanting to be on the committee, we'll take all 10 of them and we'll eliminate them. The least vote getter will be removed, and we'll vote on the next group until we have 3 members, 3 people who receive a majority of 13 from this commission, and at that point, that'll be the 3 remaining members. So you will have a hand in that decision, okay? Any other questions? Do you understand the motion? Mr. Rogers?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I think the final committee is going to have to be approved by the commission regardless
Yeah.
of the automatic appointments the city is making. So we are appointing 3 at-large members, I guess, but in essence, we do have to approve the whole committee. So the city sends somebody and the commission doesn't want to approve that committee as presented, then we'll have to figure something out. That's in the state law, I'm pretty
Would
certain.
they have alternatives
Yes, I mean,
or alternates, however you want to?
you can structure it however, but Mayor, unless I'm wrong, but the guide to redistricting from the comptroller's office says the commission has to appoint the redistricting committee.
What I was told, we're not required to do a redistricting committee, that's a decision that the county makes if they want to have a redistricting committee. I don't think there was one back when Mr. Pritchard was doing it. I think he brought his stuff directly to the commission. But I do agree with you that the commission, if they appoint one, they do have
That's
to
right.
approve all those members.
But it doesn't have to be the same night, which means we could appoint these 6. The commission is voting right now on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I see that as the commission approving the 6, and then the other 3 will be approved by the commission in the next meeting. Would that
Yeah.
not satisfy?
The mayor's right. The commission can do it themselves. It's lost, but if we do a committee, it does have to be appointed by the commission.
So, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, something else to bring up on that too, Mr. Mayor, you probably would speak to this since you've been involved with the process for a while now. The full commission doesn't have to completely agree with the committee's recommendations. I guess the commission can also look at other options potentially too. I know that's happened about a decade ago when I witnessed those proceedings and everything.
Yes, sir, you're exactly right. If you didn't agree with what the committee brought to you, you can always change it on your own. I mean, that's the commission's prerogative on anything that comes to the commission. You're right.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Everybody understand what we're voting on tonight? The structure and the 6 members. All right, favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. That motion carries.
That concludes nominating.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. Great job, guys, so far. We've done very well. Reports, special committees, any reports? Mr. Rogers, you have anything on budget?
We are working steadfastly, meeting July 12th as hopefully, based on the deadline we have to advertise in the paper, as our last budget committee meeting. We will recommend, we've already recommended some budgets and some funds, but we've not done anything with revenue or the tax levy. So we will decide that July 12th at 5 o'clock.
So everybody get that date, big date. Please try to get there if you can. Be more than welcome. All right, any other report of special committees? Any resolutions?
No resolution, Mr. Chairman.
How about election of notaries?
We got several tonight, several. Tamara N. Atkins, Travis Bumbelow, Don R. Chaffin, Lisa Chandler, Katrina Cockrell, Aaron Courier, Carly Darby, Penny Davis, Dolores Fuquay, Luella Lee Gentry, James Gentry, Barbara Gist, Frank Harrell, Trinity Jackson, Catherine B. Jones, Michael H. Knowlton, Leanne Martin, Jennifer G. Maxwell, Alyssa McLeod, Penny Meadows, Pamela Moore, Amanda Moore, Toby Mueller, April Mullins, Jackson Pelfrey, Tanya Joyce Ragland, Debbie Smith, Beth Stone, Ruth A. Vega, Danette Warren, Matt T. Warren, Deborah West, and last, Michelle Whitaker.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion on the notaries? All right, Mr. Clerk.
All right. If you'll take your handsets, we do have to always vote this one. And just go ahead and press yes for me. We're just approving notaries. Thank you all. All right. Good deal. All 24 votes yes, Mr. Chairman, 0 no. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Other new business, I recognize the cash flow. Monthly budget accrual report for the general purpose school fund. All we need to do is recognize that. Any questions on that? All right, item 2 is to recognize Randy Porter's reappointment of Dow Harris to the Cookville Boat Dock Utility District Board. We recognize that. Don't need a vote, right, Mr. Porter? It is an appointment, so we do recognize it. But we will need to hear from you concerning the veterans.
Neighbors, would you change me back over?
Sure.
This is not anything I'm going to need you to vote on or anything. I just want to, full transparency, keep you up to date of a project we're looking at doing. This is the Veterans Wall that's out by the courthouse. And I've been noticing, especially over the last year or two, we get a lot of veterans that come and stand and look at the wall and look at the names. And I've been noticing some of them are in wheelchairs and some of them are with walkers and some of them are on crutches. And the way the wall sits, it's so close to the traffic there. I'm worried a little bit about it being a safety hazard. So what we're looking at doing, and we'll do this all inside our departments, is those are not attached to that wall. They just sit, the wall sits on top of the other block wall, is turning that around so that this green space that's behind it, turn it around, and so that you can be on the other side of it. And us taking, if you notice where the park benches are up at the top here, there's a concrete walkway that comes down those park benches, is to take and make that sidewalk come on around to this area here and make a concrete pad to where that these people that are in wheelchairs and walkers and so forth, that we could have an area for them to sit and look at the wall and put a couple of these benches that match the others there where they can see it. And then this eternal flame that's been there for I don't know how many years, it's really getting in bad shape. Like to replace that, make it a very nice one. And then we have Bond's Monument that's agreed to on the side that's going to face the streets out there, is make us a nice thing that's engraved onto the block that says Putnam County Veterans Memorial Wall, and have the symbols for the different military, Air Force, Marines, and all those, and make this a nice area for the people that they can come and view the wall, because we definitely don't want to see anybody get hurt, and we like for those folks to come and be able to see this. So we're going to do it inside the Parks, Recreation, and Maintenance Department. Something we'll be working on to have it hopefully before Veterans Day or somewhere in that neighborhood. But I just want to make sure that y'all knew what we were doing in case you see some work going on out there.
Thank you, Mayor. Great idea. I think it'll be a benefit very much. All right, any announcements or statements?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
don't forget that we have my counterpart, Gabrielle McCullum, here to assist any commissioners with getting into your training, to log into your training, to get your required training. If you were elected in 2018, newly elected in 2018, we'll be downstairs in the second floor conference room as soon as this is over. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Anything else? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I'd just like to applaud the commission for what y'all did tonight, and the
Amen.
job that y'all do working together and in such a professional manner. And I applaud y'all for what y'all do. Thank you.
Thank you, guys and gals. Great job. Anything else? All right, we stand adjourned.